what is a locality plan. Quite simply, it's a forward-looking plan looking at the future management, growth and development and protection of an area. This is a little diagram just showing the overlay of all the good bits that go into what a locality plan is. A locality plan is a council document. It's a council endorsed document, therefore it's a community document. Therefore the community involvement and ownership of that document, to me, should be at the heart of it. So your ongoing commitment and coming along to these sort of sessions enriches the process each time. My presentation today, as you can appreciate, compressing 460 pages into a small presentation is a tough ask. So what I'm going to do today is just hit on the headlines for each of the thematics. Just a brief overview of the structure of the locality plan and why it's 460 pages. It actually consists of 3 different volumes. 3 of the volumes are on each of the table. Volume 1 is called the locality-wide strategy. So they're the overarching themes and how they apply to all of Kingscliff. It's key to look at locality planning holistically, how the kit parts overlay, what are the environmental constraints, how's that merged with the way the settlement is growing and could grow, what's the demographic composition looking like now, what's it going to look like in the future. So that's a volume that sort of asks all these questions and accumulates all that information into one capture spot. Volume 2 is then breaking the locality down into a number of different precincts. So I think we've divided into 12 different precincts. That recognises that each precinct, whilst together make up Kingscliff locality, it's recognising that each do something slightly different or have a slightly different character. For example, the town centre is different to the North Kingscliff residents. The locality plan is a council document, it's a community document. It sets the planning framework and blueprint for about a 30-year horizon. That's how far out we look in terms of those demographic projections. But notwithstanding, we tend to like to revise these plans on a 5-year rotation. So whilst it's a forward-looking plan, looking to that 30-year horizon, there are opportunities along the way to recalibrate just to see how we're going with that. Particularly in a place like Kingscliff, when there's substantial greenfield development opportunities around, we need to sort of take note of those and recalibrate as they come online. So this also recognises if the locality plan is a council-owned document and the LEP is our statutory document, this is a little bit of planning education, the information and the framework that we set in the locality plan makes a series of recommendations and strategies. They're only implemented through a separate process which is called a planning proposal or rezoning, as a lot of people know it as. So building height changes, minimum lot size, floor space ratio, those sorts of things are actually framed and strategised here, become effective here. So there's a 2-step process. So whilst the locality plan may advocate for building height changes, it still has to go through this process. Volume 3 is the development control plan. So that's the one if you're lodging a DA for a subdivision or something like that, that's the document that you go to there. There's a lot of parts of Kingscliff that the plan doesn't necessarily talk to specifically. A lot of low density residential areas, for example, that are already covered by a number of different planning frameworks and development controls. Also need to recognise whilst this is a community plan, there are state government influences of specific to the Tweed and the North Coast is the North Coast Regional Plan. It's a state government document. So that identifies some of the key actions in that is that regional and local plans are to be developed. So the Kingscliff Locality Plan is our plan. It's our plan, our strategic plan for this locality. Within the North Coast Regional Plan as well, they set a number of benchmarks. One of those is to provide an additional 11,600 dwellings by 2036. So a lot of those will be taken up by a lot of the existing planned greenfield development sites. But the locality plan lets us get on the front foot and provide a framework and structure how those other greenfield areas are ultimately going to be developed. So that's a really good opportunity for us. The regional plan nominates urban footprint, just for your interest as well. It's also picked up and acknowledged a future knowledge precinct in the north, opposite the golf course, south of the light industrial estate. And also nominates and acknowledges the existing mixed use and tourism precincts as being important. So in terms of process, as I mentioned, we have been going for quite some time. A lot of you have been involved in these early sessions. So we've got 5 key stages that we've been through, and we're finally arriving at this end of the process. So what we're doing today, and I just want to reiterate that your involvement in each of these stages has informed each of these vision statements, the thematics that have been derived, and also those key actions that find themselves in the plan. So whilst we're towards the end of the process and recognising that the documents, yes, they are technical, this is a great opportunity to have an overarching look at those key visions, those key strategies, and provide an opportunity to now rediscuss. Are they still relevant? Do those words resonate with me? Can we say it in a different way? Have we missed something? So it's a really good opportunity to check and enrich what we've already done. And then we can take that through to the final planning process. So I just wanted to quickly, I guess, put up what some of those core vision statements are, and provide the opportunity, I guess, for each of the tables as you're going through, just to think, do these words resonate? Are they reflective of Kingscliff? Visions are important because they do set the bench, the tone and the character of these locality plans. So the words should really reflect what the community feels. So the future of Kingscliff will achieve a sustainable balance of healthy and inclusive community life, prosperous local economy and employment opportunity, tourism and additional housing diversity to meet generational needs. The growing settlement will be nestled within a highly valued and protected natural environment, fringed with a working agricultural hinterland. The town centre will continue to be strengthened as the centre of community life, supported by new retail, employment, education and residential opportunities with a new business and knowledge precinct. With infill development, where there's the opportunity for Kingscliff to grow from the existing census district population of 9,600, if all the greenfield development areas were infilled and developed to the density that we're talking about, we'd be talking about a population close to about 14,000 people. I guess this needs to be contextualised with the role Kingscliff plays in terms of its sub-region. If you think about the Tweed coast, you've got the Tweed Head CBD, that's our regional city. It's defined as being a regional city. Moving down the coast, and Wollumbar's a regional town, Kingscliff, by virtue of its population being 9,000, is actually defined in Department of Planning terms as a town now. It's not a village, it's a town, meets that measure. You look at, I guess, the infrastructure and the facilities that are in Kingscliff. You know, we've got quite a diverse and active town centre. There's a TAFE, there's a high school, primary schools. All those, we've got a wastewater treatment facility that has been built to accommodate that growth. All those things come together to assert Kingscliff as a town and an important sub-regional town that meets the needs of a number of other smaller surrounding settlements as well. So Fingal, Chindera, even as far down as Cabarita, Hastings Point and Pottsville. They all, I guess, come to Kingscliff for one reason or another. It is a service centre. So it's recognising that there has been sustained growth in Kingscliff, and it's planned that sustained growth will continue. A key issue the whole way through, right from the very first community vision survey, there was a lot of people very concerned about height. So this page nominates what those height changes are proposed to be. Generally across the board, those building heights are coming down. They're either being maintained or in some areas reduced. One of the key comments that came out of the very first initial community vision survey was the character and low scale character of Marine Parade. So we had a look at Marine Parade, we looked at the street frontages, we measured building heights. We feel that dropping the height from 13.6 metres, which can potentially have a 3 to 4 storey building, down to 11 metres, which locks it in as a small 3-storey building, is something that's going to hit the mark in terms of preserving the character of Marine Parade. So it's proposed that'll be dropping by 2.6 metres to 11 metres. Medium density residential areas. There's at the moment there's a blanket 13.6 maximum building height. As we've found with a couple of recent residential flat buildings, that can actually accommodate up to a 4-storey building. So I guess looking at that and understanding that the 3-storey building height character is what we've been hearing to date as being the preferred building height, it's proposed to drop that from 13.6 metres to 12.2 metres, thereby locking it in effectively at 12.2 metres. Now the 13.6 metres is planned to be retained in the other business zones. So the fundamental difference between 12.2 and 13.6 is recognising that shop top housing, so buildings that include a layer of retail or commercial with some accommodation above, the floor to ceiling between that is effectively higher than you'd find in a typical residential building. So that extra 1.4 metres accounts for that extra floor to ceiling clearance to have a restaurant or a place of work or something like that. That's the thinking and the difference there. So that's a brief overview of those. We'll get into each of the themes now. And how are we going for time? Good. So your first theme, environment and heritage. So again, get out your feedback form and just write down some notes as we're talking through this. So the vision of environment and heritage is to facilitate the protection of Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal cultural heritage and management of land identified as environmentally and ecologically important through appropriate land use zoning, provisions, ongoing fauna, habitat and heritage management. Kingscliff's natural environment, again, and not surprisingly, has kept recurring as probably the strongest part of community commentary. It's the love of the beach, it's the love of the hinterland area, it's the love of the bushland that really underpins what that coastal character of Kingscliff is. The low-scale buildings, but it is that natural beauty, the access to the beach and the creek that really dominate a lot of the feedback that we've had. In response to that, and it's a process that's actually running concurrently but separate to the locality planning process, is the appropriate land zoning of that land. So lands that are identified as having high ecological significance will ultimately be zoned for environmental protection. As I mentioned, that's a process that our NRM team and Mark Kingston's in the room has been the team leader of that for a number of years. So the vegetation has largely been mapped. Council will be looking at rolling out the first rounds of community consultation on that at the start of next year. For the purposes of the locality plan though, it's important to identify and define these conservation areas with the overriding strategy of trying to link them up, trying to retain as much of that connected canopy and environmental land as we can. So as you can see on the diagram, really looking at trying to link together some of these wildlife corridors with a really strong emphasis on strengthening this east-west connection that comes right into the back of the town centre. This in a way is Kingscliff's green heart, and all the existing settlement areas are located around that. So no matter where you are, you're always not that far from this green heart. We also like the idea of linking this north-south connection as well. And there's an existing drainage corridor there. And even though it's broken a few times by various roads, it's not. You can imagine there being a continuous canopy almost all the way to the Tweed River. So it's about reinforcing what we've got, protecting land that we know has high ecological significance, and implementing measures to strengthen and connect those. There's other projects that are similarly going on parallel to the locality plan are the ongoing coastal and estuary management plans. So I guess we've seen over the last few years. There's also estuary management plans in place as well, and they're similar to our plans. They're in a constant state of being updated and reviewed as we get more information. Some of you may also be aware that Council has recently endorsed the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Management Plan. So what that process did was initially map all the important Aboriginal cultural heritage areas across the Shire, including Kingscliff, and they're mapped in terms of two categories, predictive and known sites. And there are a number of those in and around Kingscliff. So what that means is if these areas are to develop, there's a due diligence process to come in and do a cultural assessment of those lands and try and understand what the potential impact's going to be. Is there going to be damaged? So it's about getting on the front foot of that in the early stages of a project to understand what those issues are. That project, that's in place now, and there'll be subsequent LEP amendments. Next theme is the town centre. So the vision for the town centre is to provide the opportunity for the growth of the town centre core as a sub-regional retail centre, fulfilling a diverse range of retail, commercial, cultural, recreation, health and accommodation uses, with the focus on improving the connectivity, streetscape, pedestrian amenity, whilst effectively managing traffic and car parking. Big ask, huh? Whew, let's see what we can do. So as I already mentioned, one of the key strategies is to retain and enhance that fine, what we call a fine grain detail of the Marine Parade street front. What we mean by that is we like the idea of a number of small businesses set up there. As a pedestrian, it's more interesting. You take a couple of steps throughout the front of another shop. There's, outdoor dining. You got this beautiful new coastal foreshore right across the road. So this is a great place to try and enhance and strengthen that pedestrian amenity and pedestrian feel. So I guess that's point one. There's two key parts of the Kingscliff Town Centre, as you know. There is that fine grain walkable area here, and then there's the big block of the Kingscliff Shopping Village. With the extra growth that's forecast in the directly adjoining greenfield development areas, the plan makes provision for the opportunity to expand the town centre further west along Turnix Street. The idea of that is you'd be able to locate additional larger floor plate uses down here without affecting the character of the fine grain of what we've got on the beach there. Because of the site levels, we also see it as a really good opportunity to get some really good car parking in there. So as traffic's coming in through Turnix Street, it's sort of pulling off and populating some of these other car parks in some of these new sites before actually hitting Pearl Street and Marine Parade, hopefully taking a bit of pressure off that. The idea is to look at the greenfield development areas adjoining the town centre and also within the town centre and saying, well, these are highly walkable areas. They've got really good access to the town centre. This is where you'd like to increase the housing density and diversity, putting in different housing types. When I say that, it's residential flat buildings, and it's what state government are calling at the moment the missing middle. So if you've got residential flat buildings here and a standard house here, it's everything else that's in the middle: townhouses, duplexes, row houses, mews houses, courtyard houses, small lot houses. We're starting to see a little bit of that down in, already developed down around, if anyone knows, that area around Cotton Beach, and also to a lesser extent in Seaside, where there are a better diversity of housing. So you're getting more people living within walkable access of these services, hopefully leaving their car at home while they go down and grab something from the shops or go to the beach. To do that, we also need to improve the pedestrian connectivity and public domain within the town centre. So I think we've done a pretty good job on the coastal foreshore. We need to now pull that through to the town centre and connect those two parts of the town centre, the Kingscliff Shopping Village and Marine Parade. So some of the ideas there is where there's currently some informal through-block connections, is providing incentives to those property owners to actually make those proper pedestrian thoroughfares through. So for example, if we end up with a better car parking arrangement on the Kingscliff Shopping Village site, and perhaps we're in discussions, maybe there'll be a multi-storey car park there at some point, the idea that people that are visiting Kingscliff can come, park once and then visit a number of different areas, so there's no need to sort of park directly out the front of the shop. If you can park go to the shops, grab a coffee, go to the foreshore and walk through. To do that, we want these through connections through, and we think that there's really good opportunity for operators to have some more smaller businesses fronting Pearl Street to activate that side of the street. At the moment, when you come into Kingscliff, the experience is it's back of house, it's car parking, it's where people keep their rubbish. This is a really good opportunity to look at activating that side of the street and getting those better public thoroughfares and through connections. Another key strategy which is in the volume 3, so it's the pointy end of what buildings look like. Looking at the architecture and design guidelines that are going to build upon the coastal character of Kingscliff. So you might like to think about at your table, what buildings do you like in Kingscliff and why? What are those defining elements? Is it the size? Is it the materials? There's a lot of contributing factors there that we'd like to hear about. We've got some of our own ideas in the DCP, obviously, but it'd be good to hear yours. So just a quick photo montage. So this is the existing. You can see there's a 3-storey building here, 1-storey, 2-storey there. So we might envisage an infill development that looks at keeping a new building within that 11-metre height limit. There's opportunity, and we'd like to encourage that you could have cafes, bars and restaurants at this upper level as well that gets you up and gets to take advantage of that coastal view. We like the idea of that. We like the idea of this really active edge. We like the idea of getting more streetscaping and shade trees along there. Over time, if we get car parking out the back, there could be the opportunity to take away some of that car parking on the footpath side, expand that footpath right out wide, so we've got a really wide, generous pedestrian space all the way along there. Reduce the dominance of the car. These are just some sketch visualisations of some of that infill. I won't dwell on those. So that's town centre. A couple of seconds just to make some notes on that. We'll launch into economy, employment and infrastructure. So the vision statement for this theme is expand employment generating land uses by providing opportunity for larger employment generating developments such as a business park, health and or university campus, commercial, retail uses, as well as a range of student, tourism, residential accommodation types, and all to build upon the existing industry pillars of tourism, agriculture, health, local small business. It was interesting just to see the show of hands before who lives and works in the area and who lives but works outside of the area. We've got some statistics that suggest there's a lot of people that actually have to drive up to the Gold Coast to work. Places like Bundle, where there's a commercial business park there. So one of the strategies there is can we do a similar development in Kingscliff? For many years we've had this exponential residential growth that we've seen largely play out along the coast. But what about jobs? What about those commercial opportunities? Has that been proportionate to that growth? So we feel there's really good opportunity to have a look at enhancing those long-term employment opportunities that are going to leverage off the things that we really do well, including the tourism, agriculture, health, local small business. So the idea of that would be the land that's opposite the golf course. So here's the Chindera Golf Course here, and south of the existing light industrial estate. All that land on the right there's a really good opportunity to see some employment generating land uses there. Great access onto the highway. You're not far from the airport. It's a large site. It is flood prone. Our flood studies suggest that you can fill up to 65% of it, which is why we've incorporated some open space here. So some of the principles here would be, if I go through traffic and access and movement, is a new east-west link from the Tweed Coast Road through ultimately to Kingscliff Street on this side. There'd be a business park that could supplement this light industrial estate. Maybe over time this light industrial estate would transition to part of that business park as well. There'd be another smaller retail centre that would service both the industrial estate and the business park, which would also serve to take a bit of pressure off our town centre here as well. So there'll be opportunity for some more uses out there. There's also opportunity for some additional residential accommodation over there that could front this active and passive open space area. And because the site's quite large, there's also opportunity for to look at the idea of a knowledge park. So long term, can we think about a university or expanded TAFE taking on a site like that? So to talk about employment and economy, it'd be remiss of me not to talk about the hospital. As a lot of you are aware, the state government have nominated this site in Coogin. It's a regional referral hospital. It's been touted as a 600-bed hospital, and it's likely to generate approximately 2,000 full-time jobs. So a lot of you, we've noticed on social media, a lot of people have said, well, why, this is a major thing for the town. Why is it not in the plan? Why hasn't it got its own sort of precinct in there? The simple answer to that is when council endorsed the plan to go on exhibition, the site hadn't been selected yet. So I guess it's that passage of time that didn't quite align. We're moving forward and going into the next iteration of the plan between now and the end of the year. We are going to look at some of the implications of that, but because that's being run as a separate process, the state government run process, Department of Planning and hundreds of other people that are involved, we can only put in what the information is that we have at hand at that point. So we recognise that it has major ramifications and considerations that we need to look at in terms of the context of the locality plan, particularly the ancillary land use considerations. What are the allied health uses that are likely to be required here? How many of those can be accommodated on the site? How many of those could be relocated into our business and knowledge precinct? Could that be the incubator to sort of start off that precinct? What are the retail needs of that? Could a small retail centre here also service Kingscliff Hill? So you've got a convenience store there. Aged care. The role of agriculture and food production, not only for the hospital but for all of Kingscliff, all of the community. I mean, one way of looking at it, it's a hospital on the site, but is this the opportunity to look at a healthier Kingscliff more holistically? So what can we do as a community to leverage off this decision that's going to help everyone else out? And I think having Coogin and the agriculture and food production right there is playing a fundamental role in that. Obviously, there's a lot of traffic management issues surrounding the hospital as well. We've got a Tweed Road development strategy that already foreshadows the four-laning of part of Tweed Coast Road, but recognise that we need to understand what the implications of that traffic are going to be. So I just want to reinforce that this is a really important issue. It's not in the plan yet because we simply don't have enough information about it. We're looking at updating the plan as we're going along with what we've got. But recognising this is an ongoing separate consultation process, which I understand you can be involved in. New South Wales Health have called for various reference panel members. So housing, the vision statement there is to provide a planning framework which will deliver a diverse range of housing types to appeal to a broad demographic and housing and affordability profile with a strong focus on subtropical subdivision and house design, connectivity between residential areas with tree-lined streets and well-located, embellished open space and public domain. So the key strategies there are, and that top number has actually been updated since then, to meet a growing population within that 30-year time frame. That's only indicative. We know things can take a lot longer. There's the scale of time that kind of gets forgotten in when these things are actually going to be developed. There's a lot of the greenfield development sites in Kingscliff have been zoned for a very long time. A lot of those sites have a number of existing approvals in place. An example of that is the development site on the left-hand side at the bottom of Coogin as you're going north. There's a lot of you would have noticed a stack of earthworks that have gone on there, and what's called pre-loading. So they put all that fill on to compress it, getting ready for a subdivision, so the finish level won't be that high. But that's an example of a DA that's been around for a very long time, and it's only now sort of starting to be realised. So there are a lot of substantial greenfield development sites in and around Kingscliff. But we need to look at those sites and understand what's the appropriate housing types that we can encourage developers to develop on that site. So think about your own situation. What house are you in now? Are you a single or a couple in quite a large house? Are you looking to downsize but there's nothing available? Think about what you'd want to see your kids get into in terms of housing affordability. As mentioned as well, another strategy is increasing the opportunity for shop-top housing within and surrounding the town centre. Again, increasing that density to encourage walkability and activate the streets a little bit more. Getting more residents in town centre is good for passive surveillance, and it's good for business, and it's good for town centre vibrancy, but it's important to get those in the right place as well. And just that comment on a mix of dwelling types to meet different affordability and demographic need. You know, what are the implications if we don't do any density and continue to roll out 400 and 600 square metre lots throughout the town of those? Is that going to represent a missed opportunity? With the hospital coming, is there opportunity to increase some of the density in other areas so you're meeting the service needs of those 2,000 people that will be working there? We're also really interested in pushing the idea of strengthening and enhancing design, subtropical subdivision, design that meets the needs of our climatic context. So we want buildings that breathe, buildings that use appropriate materials, buildings that really look good. We've also, that's that last point there, the idea of reducing building heights in medium density zones across the board. So dropping building heights from 13.6 metres down to 12.2, thereby locking it in at 3 storeys. To open space and community facilities, we're missing facilities off the end of that heading there. So build up, the vision statement being, build upon the network of open space areas including sports fields, courts, parks, civic open space, bushland, coastal foreshore areas, cycle and walking paths with a strong focus on achieving greater level of connectivity and user amenity. Integrate community facilities including a new library, community centre, community meeting rooms within the town centre. The amount of people that it said that was one of their primary modes of transport in and around. I guess that just really highlights I guess it's flat, you know, and there is generally good pathways and good accessibility to services. So that's fantastic and something that we want to build on. So as these new development areas kick in, we want to make sure that we've got really good connecting pathways that is going to expand that network. So just running through the key strategies here, and I just want to point out that just today, Council has commenced the Tweed Open Space Strategy, and Jodie's in the room over here. Jodie's the project officer of that study. So that'll be the lead strategy for open space. However, some of the key ideas that we've embedded into the Kingscliff Locality Plan is there's already a master plan and work in progress to embellish and update the Kingscliff Sport and Recreation Complex in the north. So new facilities there. New active and passive open space areas, including a district park, so putting that in one of the greenfield development areas. And as these areas develop, they'll also need to either contribute to active open space or provide, as well as providing some local parks if they're needed and where they're needed. And also the idea of a youth precinct and skate park, which probably some of you in the room have been involved in the consultation around that. We recognise the existing library is too small. We need a bigger facility. So we're questioning, should that be on the edge of town, or should we try and embed that in the middle of the town centre, where potentially you're going to get more crossover with retail and recreation users? Some of your ideas on that would be really good. Is that a good idea? Or are you better off having it up near around the TAFE, or maybe you've got a better idea? Similar to the environmental strategies, we like the idea of that north-south and east-west passive movement links. So having these pathways that directly adjoin those natural environment areas, so you've got that nice character and that nice amenity, and almost having that separate overlay of circulation in and around the town centre that leads out into the residential areas. So it's that passive movement overlay. And also those movements would then link together and better connect our local parks.